Welcome, Rares, to the 100% United podcast. I'm your host, TC, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Scott. Hello, Scott. How's things?
Hi, TC. Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right, buddy. Today on the pod, we look back on that 1-1 draw at Old Trafford against Everton. We analyse the Europa League draw and dig into all the other interesting Manchester United news too. We said, Scott, that Sunday was going to be a massive test. You have to say we fell short again. 2 steps forward and 1 step back, it seems.
It's funny you say that because after the game, I went to take my little dog for a walk and I was thinking about that. I was like, if we're going to mark it down as steps forward and steps back, what is it? I would say it would probably be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Maybe we're not in as dire straits as we were a couple of weeks ago after the draw home to Villa or at Sheffield United.
Nope.
But disappointing. We had, 55, 60 minutes to score a goal, and it falls to Mason Greenwood to actually show some composure and get the goal in. It seems like we're not bringing everything to the table, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Let's look at the lineup. Let's look at the main talking points, and then we'll dig a bit deeper as to what is going on and why we've got these mixed results. We lined up De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka right back, Lindelof and Maguire, keeping the centre-back partnership going. Luke Shaw in on the left, McTominay and Fred holding the midfield like you like. Jesse in front of them, and then Danny James, Anthony Martial and Rashford up front three. It was a good lineup, Scott. A positive lineup, right?
Yeah, same lineup that faced City.
Yes.
Man for man. Just didn't show the same just attacking intent or just fluidity. I think it just comes from us having to play more on the front foot than the back foot, and it just doesn't work for us, does it?
It doesn't, Scott. And I know you've been calling me the stat man recently, so I've dug up some quite interesting stats we're going to tuck into after the game. But let's go for the game first. Look, it could have been so different, Scott. 1 minute in, well, less than 1 minute, 20 seconds in, Fred burst into the box, got dispossessed, but it fell to Jesse Lingard. On the spin, it's the kind of chance you expect Jesse to bury, isn't it?
It is. I think a few seasons ago, he probably would have stuck that in. As we said last podcast, he's going through a lot. Personally, he probably would have needed that goal more than most. Just a shame he couldn't wrap it in, isn't it?
Especially with his birthday as well.
Yeah.
But I do see, look, Jesse looks a bit happier, right? I think sometimes talking to someone about things getting off your chest can liberate you.
Yeah,
and I think he's starting to turn the corner in terms of sort of his physiology. So hopefully it is, because obviously no one wants those kind of troubles in their life, and we do wish him well.
Of course,
like I said last pod. On the 11th minute, Danny James, the greyhound, charged through. What a pass from Scott McTominay. Scott,
couldn't believe picked him out.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really, really top notch. Danny James, he was at an angle, to be fair. It was a hard finish, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, the second he starts whacking those in is the second you can start calling him world class. Yeah. It's good that he's getting himself in those positions and sort of learning from that. And let's hope he can really work on his finishing.
Let's hope. But you know what? He scored a few goals this season anyway. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When you're always travelling at those high speeds, I've always got a little bit of sympathy for a really, really pacey winger. If he sometimes does a dodgy cross or he sometimes does a dodgy shot, because you know what it's like, Scott, when you're running full pace, it is harder. And when you're going at lightning pace, sometimes you're going to get it a bit wrong. It wasn't a bad finish. I'd just say from that angle, it's better to go high and hard and try and catch the keeper unawares.
Yeah, but you're right. I think I can only really judge him once I've tried to hit a shot into the top corner going 25 miles an hour.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
27th minute, Marcus Rashford lined up for another free kick. Obviously, he's got a bit of a reputation building now. It was straight down the middle, but it still caused Jordan Pickford all kinds of trouble in the Everton goal, didn't it?
It did, and probably something he knows from training with Pickford for England is He does like to flap a bit, doesn't he? So just get it on target and maybe something will happen.
Yeah, and it almost did. But then, unfortunately, Scott, it was another corner for Everton from the right, swung in. David De Gea missed it, hit his mate Victor Lindelof and went in for an own goal from the corner. Now, let's be fair about this. David De Gea should have done better. He really, really should have done better. But let's also be fair about it, and he was definitely fouled, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know where you're going with this, TC. I thought it was a foul.
Well, it was, but he still should have done better. In the Premier League, you can't rely on the ref to bail you out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was obviously fouled, wasn't he? He was all over him, didn't get a touch on the ball. So
yeah, it was a comedy of errors, wasn't it?
It really was. VAR, the ref, David De Gea, Lindelof, everyone.
Yeah.
So, mate, went into half-time 1-0 down, looking quite bleak as well. Luke Shaw burst forward on the 62nd. Danny James again had another chance, blasted it. Was it blocked by Anthony Martial?
I think it might have been. It was a good shot from Luke Shaw, though, wasn't it? It was good to see him get in those areas and actually pull the trigger for once.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this before in the pod, haven't we? That I've said, I've been quite open with it, that Luke Shaw is meant to be an attacking fullback, but he doesn't put up numbers. He doesn't make assists and he doesn't score goals. So that, yeah, right, it's a massively positive sign if Luke Shaw can start getting shots in and start getting on the score sheet and get some assists too.
Yeah, 5 years ago now we bought him, £30 million, and you sort of think we're getting the brightest young fullback in the country.
Yeah.
And to think here, 5 years on, he scored 1 goal, assisted single digits. I can't imagine he's got double-digit assists.
No way.
Pretty disappointing output, isn't it? Although that, as we said, that injury did just ruin a couple of years of his life.
I remember it like it was yesterday, Scott.
Yeah.
Let's just cast our minds back, because Luke Shaw was absolutely flying. He was in the best form of his life. He was really, really flying. He was looking... I mean, I honestly thought he was completing that team. He was giving us an outlet that we never had. And then it all just came crashing down in 1 second, didn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, we know Luke Shaw, he does take a while to get back to fitness, even if he's got a little niggle. So when you got a massive injury, I need to balloon a little bit, didn't he? But yeah, you know what I mean. He really was flying. We do have to be fair to him with that.
Yeah. And don't forget, they sold his best mate, Memphis.
Yeah.
They were pretty close, those two.
More than best mates. So on the 65th minute, the defining moment, you might say, Mason Greenwood came on for Jesse. On the 70th, Lindelof almost redeemed himself with a shot that threatened the top corner. And then on the 77th minute, Mason Greenwood outside the box. Another absolutely superb strike from the boy wonder. Our saviour again.
Yeah. For his first league goal at Old Trafford, just, as I said earlier, just the first one to actually show a bit of composure and not just to try and get the laces as hard through the ball as they could. He's a natural finisher, isn't he? And he's someone that I think is going to be banging on the door for a starting spot pretty soon.
Well, he seems to be already, Scott, doesn't he? I mean, that, like you say, that finish was unusual, wasn't it? It was almost like he caught Pickford because he went low and near post. Obviously, you've got less time as a keeper to react if you go near post. It's less far for the ball to travel. When he lined it up, you didn't think he'd go there, did you?
I didn't. It's sort of quite old school just to have a striker who just wants to get it and smash it in without any fuss. And I think he's catching keepers off by surprise, as he did against Alkmaar last week.
Well, you've alluded to the point that he doesn't have such a big back lift and he seems to strike the ball quite early. And again, that's going to catch the keepers unawares, isn't it? If the keepers are not being able to read the pullback of the foot, then it always makes it more tricky. And like we say, when he lined up, I thought he was going to go open side of the keeper, and he fired it low and hard and to his near post, and got his reward. And you have to say, the 4,000th game, as we said on Friday, we said barring a miracle, there was no miracle. Manchester United 4,000 consecutive games with an academy graduate featuring, and it was written in the stars that an academy graduate would score. Right?
Yeah, it was only fitting.
It was absolutely brilliant. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that winner, and we didn't really look like we were going to, did we?
Well, we have 15, 18 minutes or so to get one in, and you're right. It just seemed like we were almost happy with the point.
And we really shouldn't have been, should we?
Didn't make sense.
It was, look, we beat Spurs, we beat City, and we did speak, didn't we, Scott? We said that this is the one we're looking at. We've talked a big game, we've said we're up for it. But unfortunately, again, when we play a team that we really should be dominating, we just don't turn up to the party.
No, and it's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? Because we've just gone through a week that you can see what we can do, or a couple of weeks where you can see what we can do. We said it last week that this was the first of 5 or 6 huge games that it's going to be tougher to get the players up for these games than it would be to get them up for Tottenham and City. And it doesn't look like we're starting well, does it? It was a flat performance against a team that was there for the taking. They had a manager who was just chucking subs on left, right and centre just to waste time. Duncan Ferguson, I've got to say, looked...
Scary?
Oh, I don't want to say out of his depth.
He always looked bloody scary, didn't he?
Well, I don't know if you want to say scary. I don't understand his substitution with Moise Keane. That just seemed like he was unnecessarily throwing his weight around.
He said he was just wasting time. But
I think if that was the case, he would have looked him in the eye and shaked his hand when he walked off the pitch and explained that to him.
Oh, I do agree.
Instead of just completely ignoring him.
No, I do agree, Scott. He's given that as the reason, but we grew up with Duncan Ferguson playing in the Premier League. The guy's an absolute lunatic.
He's absolutely shot
come
to bits.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. Like I say, one of the most scary guys.
He's out there when it's sideways rain. I'm just wearing a shirt to show how hard I am.
With his bloody Everton wristband on underneath his shirt. Just what a mess. Yeah. What a mess. Yeah. But fair play, a bit of passion on him. Stats-wise, 67% possession to 33 in our favour, 24 shots to 8 on target to 3, 6 corners to 5 in our favour, 10 fouls by us, 12 fouls by them. Dominated the stats, Scott, but again, we didn't dominate the scoreline. Pass success rate, 86% for us, 67% for them. 13 dribbles for us, 4 dribbles for them. So again, on all the stats, We dominated, but again, we didn't pick up the points.
No, we're going to have to figure out a way to give the opposition a bit more possession, because it seems like we play so much better when we have less possession.
You know what's good? You led me beautifully onto my next point. I had a little look through our recent run of results, okay? And there's an obvious pattern that has emerged. In our last 9 games, Scott, okay, we have not won once when we have had more than 50% possession.
Well,
every time we win, we have less possession than the opposite team. And they're right here. Look, we've got Everton, 67% possession, draw. AZ Alkmaar, we won, 49%. City, win, 28%. Spurs, win, 47%. Villa, draw, 62%. Astana, lost, 66%. Sheffield United, draw, 59%. Brighton, we won, 43% possession.
Yeah.
The last time we won with more possession than the other team was Partizan Belgrade 9 games ago with 64. And then the 2 before then, we lost to Bournemouth with 57 and we beat Chelsea with 34. So we discussed this on the last pod, Scott. We had a question from the Demon Headmaster asking what was the main reasons for the difference in performance. Maybe it's a lot simpler than we thought.
Yeah, possession.
But that's staggering stuff, isn't it?
It's pretty amazing stats there. Yeah, you sort of caught completely red-handed with that. I mean, how do you defend that? I don't know, and I really don't know the remedy of it. I think we just, I do think we miss Paul Pogba's creativity in the middle. We just miss someone creative in the middle who can sort of connect all the dots, right? It seems like we're almost out there without a proper strategy and without someone to help pull all the strings. What's the point of having puppets if you don't have someone to stick your hand up there?
Yeah, well, I think that those stats, they show it's obvious that we are a counter-attacking team, aren't we?
Yeah.
And we're a counter-attacking team from front to back. And I must say, the Demon Headmaster actually followed up on his question, and he did say that we're in a counter-attacking team. Great point. But he said that to be a counter-attacking team, you've got to have a rock-solid defence. And I thought it was a great point, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
The difference is...
Well, that's how to be a good counter-attacking team.
Well, yes, exactly. We are a counter-attacking team. But yeah, 100%. So look, 1 of 11 wins with over 50% possession. It's just 5 out of our 6 wins with less possession than the other team. So it's a really tricky one, isn't it? It's got how like you say, how do we remedy that? Because... you don't want to be ceding possession to everyone, do you? No,
it just shows that we get a lot of the ball. We just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. There
are a few of these games that we have more possession and we get a couple of shots on goal. And you've got to say at least when Pogba was in the team, he was creating a lot of chances. Now, I don't think I'm going to go back into the Paul Pogba camp for him to stay long term, but I think definitely in the short term, I think if we're going to get rid of him in the summer, he definitely needs to come in and do something, because this is ridiculous, right? Like, couple of weeks ago, they're saying he might be in contention for the Tottenham game, and now it's just no word about him again. Mm-hmm. I don't know, at least when Solskjaer first came in, we went on that mad run, and he was really the centre of it.
He was.
And I think if we can get him back in the team and just even ask him to play half-arsed, because I think it'll be better than nothing.
Well, that won't make a change from what he's done since he arrived, will it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think will happen with Pogba? Your opinion, Scott. Do you think that he will leave in January, or do you think we're gonna have him till the summer and we have to manage the situation till the end of the season?
I hope we can get rid of him in January, but yeah. I think it'll be summer.
Yeah.
I think the only place he really wants to go is Madrid, and they can't sign him because they're under FFP regulations now, and they've got to unload £200 million worth of players. They can't really get £150 million in as well.
Yeah.
He's sort of just driving down his price now, isn't it? So this might be his strategy all along, just sort of have a year off, get as fit as he can, and get his prices down as possible, and then he'll go on to pastures new.
Yeah, I mean, the timing, if he was going to leave in January, seems about right, doesn't he? Come back for a couple of games, prove his fitness, and then kick up a fuss. But as we said, we don't know. We're on the outside, aren't we? And like you've said a few weeks ago, he was nearing a return, and now it doesn't seem like any nearer. While we're chatting about ins and outs, what do you think of the Haaland rumours that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer met up with Haaland on Friday? And obviously the flight tracker said that the plane went back into Manchester and then went back to the town where Alf Inge Haaland was actually born. What do you make of them, mate, Scott?
Yeah, they're not rumours. I mean, Solskjaer himself confirmed them. He went there on Friday. I think you've got to say after Haaland had met with Dortmund, Leipzig and Juventus as well, I believe.
Yes.
But they're getting stronger and stronger. Now he's saying that he's picked his club.
Apparently.
We'll know in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The Austrian League has now gone on their winter break, so he's potentially played his last game for them. It'll be really interesting, won't it? I don't know. I as much as you want to have this striker that's been raved about all over Europe, you're worried that he's not going to deal with the pressure of playing United. He's 19 years old. He's had a great career so far when there hasn't been this massive pressure on him. And it's sort of happy-go-lucky. It'll be interesting, won't it? I don't know if the answer to all of our problems lie in a 19-year-old striker, but we'll see.
Well, he will be coming to a manager that he trusts and who has helped with his career before. Hand on heart, Scott, you think he's coming in January or not?
Do you know what? I always jinx this. I always say, oh yeah, we're going to get him, and then it never happens. Or if I just, in Jurgen Klopp's words, just try and keep it cool, then sometimes it happens. So I don't know. I'm still going to stay on the fence and say it's a maybe. It's, I don't trust newspaper articles until there's just too many of them to ignore. And I think it's getting to that stage now, isn't it?
Yes, Scott. If I had to say one way or the other, I think he's on his way. I really do.
Yeah.
And I know we talked before about his comments. He said his dream is to win the league with Leeds United, our bitter rivals.
That's not going to happen, is it?
No. And, we discussed a few things about his dad playing for City, obviously Roy Keane injuring him and all the rest of it. But let's not forget, Eric Cantona came from Leeds. Some United fans said we'd never sing his name. They were furious we signed him from Leeds. So let's hang fire on that one. If he comes, it's because he wants to come, and he's come to a manager he wants to come to. And who knows? He's not his dad. Maybe it is a match made in heaven.
Yeah, who knows? But Solskjaer has an eye for talent, especially goal scoring talent.
Yeah.
And if he wants him so much, then he must be something, right?
Yeah. Just before we move on, Scott, I haven't asked you for man of the match from the game on Sunday. So who are you going for this week?
I would actually give it to Mason.
Yeah,
I'd give it to Mason again.
The difference maker.
I just thought he's just calmness, right? I think in the last few years we've just had, maybe with the exception of Zlatan, we've had problems finishing with a bit of calmness, with a bit of composure. And I think he's really going to try and bring that to the table.
You know what I would like to do? I'll do it for the next pod, is see what his conversion rate is. It must be obscene, Mason, because he's not played so many minutes, but he's racking up the goals now. He's our second top scorer. Yeah. And his minutes to goals ratio or chances to goals ratio, I think, would be absolutely superb.
It just seems like he's scoring every time he plays as well. It's like when he is. Like when we first got Chicharito, and it just seemed that's all he really wanted to do was just come on and score goals. He wasn't really interested in anything else. Yep. And it seems like we've got someone else from that kettle of fish.
That was a fun time, wasn't it, when Chico came in? He was brilliant. I loved him. Look, we had the 4,000th Academy graduate game in a row, like we said. Did you pick up on Nicky Butt's comments saying that the one that got away, the one he was so surprised it didn't make it, was Adnan Januzaj? He said he'd never seen a player like it since Ryan Giggs, and that he is the one he can't believe he didn't go on to become world class. I
actually can believe it, because I thought the same thing. I was so excited when Januzaj came in. I remember his debut at Sunderland when he scored those 2 goals.
Yeah.
The great David Moyes had a big eye for him as well, don't forget. He took him on loan when he went to Sunderland.
Yeah.
So if Moyesy rated him that highly, he must have been pretty good.
you know, in Fergie's last game down at the Hawthorns, the plan actually was to give Januzaj his debut. That's what Fergie wanted to do. Is his last gift to United was to give Januzaj his Premier League debut in his last game. But then obviously Romelu Lukaku came along and ruined the day, and then we had to try and rescue the game. So Januzaj never got on. But don't worry, Fergie had already picked Januzaj out. He probably told Moisey all about him.
Aye.
So Europa League draw, Scott, very positive for United. We've got Bruges. That's a very, very winnable game, isn't it?
You'd think so. I always like playing in Europe when we play second match at home. So I like that we can go away from home, hopefully get a couple of away goals and kill the tie off, and back to our usual Europa League team when we get back home.
Yeah, and I mean that's a very, very winnable tie into the next round, and then you start ticking off the games and getting closer to that sort of cheat mode for the Champions League.
Yeah, and once it gets to knockouts, I think, as we say, we sort of raise our game with the better the opponent, and I don't know, it'll be fun. I think when you're in the Champions League knockouts, whenever the draw comes up, you sort of watch them with a bit of dread. You don't want to get this team, you don't want to get that team.
Yeah.
I remember when the Europa League was happening a few years ago, when we won it, watching the draw, and you're sort of excited about maybe we'll get this team, it'll be fun to go and play in that stadium or this and that, and it just seems a lot more enjoyable of a cup than the Champions League gets when it gets to the knockout stages.
Yeah, let's hope we can go through, mate, and keep that run going. I think Ollie's quite a good cup manager, hopefully. He has signs of that. So let's hope. The Champions League draw was pretty interesting as well, wasn't it? City getting Real and Liverpool getting Atletico.
Yeah, Chelsea getting Bayern.
Yes, a monster. Let's hope they all go out. Look, Scott, we got the EFL Cup back on Wednesday. Colchester visiting Old Trafford. Do you expect the youngsters to be played in the main, or do you think Ollie's going to go for the result?
No, I think we play our midweek squad that we're playing at the moment.
Yeah. Do you expect it to be a blend, or do you expect him to go more youngsters? Do you think Matic will be in there as well?
Perhaps. I'm not too sure. Might be an opportunity to play Garner and Levitt again, but
Hope so.
I don't know. We'll see. I think Ollie now has his preferred starting 11 that he's played in the big games. That it's really hard to predict his second side, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's good to see that Fosu Mensah and Bailly are both returning to training this week.
Exactly, and I'm sure he'll put Ashley Young in and people like that. Matt will start. I'm sure only played a few minutes the weekend.
I was reading this morning that they're saying Ashley Young will not be offered a contract extension.
Yeah, I was looking at that. What do you make of that?
In the story, they were saying with the emergence of Wan-Bissaka, I was wondering who they were talking about. Maybe the emergence of Ethan Laird, given how well he played last game.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a big figure to miss behind the scenes for the team. You know, he's been a fantastic servant to the side, but one of Fergie's last signings.
And it might be time to move on.
Yeah.
It might be time to move on. I'm actually a supporter of him. I don't get the hate. I'll only ever go in really, really hard on a United player if he doesn't seem to be trying. And Ashley Young, there's one thing I never say is that he doesn't try his best.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at Fergie, I've said it before in the pod, Fergie said that Ashley Young's an absolute unbelievable trainer, unbelievable attitude. It's just he's got that sort of, that smarmy look sometimes, doesn't he, that sort of puts people off. But I look at the player, I look at the performances, and like you say, I think he's been a bloody honest United player. If he does go in the summer, we'll leave with my good wishes at 100%. But I hope he stays on. If I'm honest, I think we don't have enough leaders. We don't have enough people with a good attitude that have seen the good times and the bad times. I think maybe it's a summer too early, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I think he's probably more important to have behind the scenes with the rise of Brandon Williams as well, and Ethan Laird coming into the first team squad. He's a great mentor to have for these players.
I think so.
And you're right, someone who you can never say he hasn't tried.
Yeah, and then there's a good point, Scott. What we got Luke Shaw, we got Brandon, we've got Wan-Bissaka, we got Laird. That's a young group, isn't it? A young group.
All English as well, yeah.
Yeah, and also with Luke Shaw, although he's a bit older, like you said, he had a few years of his career ripped away from him. So in experience terms, it is a young fullback pool. So I would expect us to, you wouldn't expect us to go out and buy a big name fullback. So I don't know whether keeping Ashley Young might be a good idea. But like you say, if Fosu Mensah's back, that gives us another option out on the right, doesn't it?
And Delo, don't forget we got Delo as well.
Yes, we have indeed. So we'll hang fire on that one, Scott. He's obviously not going anytime soon.
Yep.
And he is still our skipper at the moment. So we just hang fire on that one.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in again, Reds. Remember to subscribe, like, 5-star review, leave your comments as well on iTunes, Spotify, Instagram too. Thanks for joining me again, Scott.
Thank you, TC.
See you on Friday, Reds. Cheerio.
Ta-ra.